Close your eyes for a moment, and picture John Stamos stepping onto a sunlit stage, the oak gleaming behind him, fans cheering his name as if he'd never aged a day since his Full House heyday. Now imagine that very same crowd falling silent, a hush settling over the audience as the host clears his throat and announces the news no one wanted to hear. That's where our story begins. A Hollywood icon famed for his charm, his effortless smile and unforgettable roles, suddenly confronted with heartbreaking news that would shake the foundation of his world. From the bright lights of prime-time sitcoms to the glittering halls of red carpet galas, John has always projected confidence and warmth. He's been the charismatic uncle who stole scenes, the romantic lead whose intensity lingers long after the credits roll, and the affable guest on every talk show that matters. Over 3 decades, he built a career on connecting with audiences, making them laugh, cry and hope right alongside him. But behind the charisma, John has also been a devoted husband, a thoughtful father, and an advocate for causes close to his heart. His life while lived in the spotlight holds depths that many fans never fully glimpsed, until now. It began on a crisp morning in late autumn, when John's world shifted in a way no script could anticipate. A routine checkup, a phone call from a doctor's office, and suddenly the narrative pivoted from rehearsed lines to raw human fear. Doctors found something unexpected, a diagnosis that came without warning, demanding attention and reshaping priorities overnight. The prognosis wasn't simple. It came wrapped in medical jargon, probabilities, and the unnerving silence that follows the words people wish they'd never hear. For John, the news was more than another role to tackle. It was a life-altering moment that forced him to step off the stage and face his greatest unknown. Fans across social media watched as John grappled with the public and the private, walking an uneasy tightrope between transparency and self-preservation. He posted a photo on Instagram, just one snapshot of him seated in a hospital hallway, sleeves rolled up, his expression poised between determination and vulnerability, with a simple caption, "Life has a way of surprising us, grateful for every moment." In that image, millions saw a hero no longer invincible, but profoundly human. Emojis of hearts and prayer hands flooded the comments. Celebrities offered support. Old castmates sent heartfelt messages about memories from sitcom sets and charity events. The outpouring was immediate, a global reminder that when someone as celebrated as John Stamos faces hardship, we all lean in, collectively holding our breath until the next update. As the news cycles churned, entertainment reporters scrambled for details. Tabloid headlines wrestled with sensitivity and sensationalism. John Stamos battles hidden enemy blared one banner. Actors' private struggle exposed warned another. But behind the glare of paparazzi flashbulbs, John and his closest circle pursued a different narrative, one of resilience, hope, and a refusal to be defined by a diagnosis. He canceled a handful of promotional appearances, but refused to retreat completely. Instead, he chose to share curated glimpses of his journey, photos of a sitter skateboard rolling at dawn, a sketchbook filled with doodles from his children, a throwback clip of him doing press-ups in hospital scrubs. Each post balanced honesty with optimism, inviting fans to witness a story of courage in real time, rather than spinning out into fear. In interviews, John spoke with trademark candor, his voice carrying both reflection and resolve. "I've played doctors, cops, rogue archaeologists, you name it," he said, referring to his eclectic filmography. "But nothing prepared me for this. This is the one role where I have no script, no director, no retakes." His words carried weight because they rang true. They resonated with anyone who's ever felt their life rewrite itself in a single moment. Unexpected layoffs, sudden losses, the kind of news that blurs the line between what we planned and what actually happens. Yet Stamos didn't dwell on fear. He framed his journey as a mission, to educate, to inspire, to remove the stigma that often shadows health battles. He partnered with nonprofits dedicated to research and patient support, using his platform to raise awareness and fundraising momentum. He appeared in a documentary short titled, Facing the Unscripted, where he joined fellow actors and athletes sharing personal health dramas. Each segment blended intimate interviews with cinematic reenactments, showing John unlocking a gym door before dawn, or cradling a mug of coffee as he sketched out next week's treatment plan on a napkin. His vulnerability became the engine driving a wave of public engagement, as fans joined support campaigns, shared their own stories, and initiated local fundraisers in small towns and big cities alike. Meanwhile, behind the camera, castmates from Full House and Glee rallied to remind him, and the world, that he was never alone. Virtual reunions streamed live for charity, complete with blooper reels and heartfelt reflections on John's kindness on set. Scenes that once delivered laugh-out-loud moments now carried new meaning, lines about resilience, about family bonds tested and strengthened, about finding humor in dark days. John watched from a private room, tears in his eyes, as he saw firsthand how much his presence had touched lives, and how much those lives rallied to return the favor. Through this chapter, the narrative thread remained clear. Heartbreak doesn't mark the end, but can usher in a transformative chapter. John Stamos, the actor, friend, and father, stepped into uncharted territory, armed not with scripts, but with authenticity. He showed us that the most compelling stories aren't always written by Hollywood. They're lived in hospital rooms, whispered in hallways, and shared by fans on couches across the globe. In that shared space between vulnerability and resilience, we find our own strength, and see, through John's example, that love, community, and purpose can shine brightest when the spotlight feels coldest. His phone buzzed incessantly, pulling him out of the stark hospital corridor, into a whirlwind of messages and missed calls. Each alert brought a new wave of emotion, voicemails from family, texts from old friends, and well wishes from fans who felt like friends. In that moment, John realized that the world he'd built through sitcoms and movie roles had become a vast support network, ready to rally behind him. His partner, ever steadfast, slipped beside him in the hallway, offering a gentle hand on his shoulder. No words were needed. The silent gesture conveyed trust and affection stronger than any scripted dialogue. Once back home, John's house transformed into a sanctuary and command center. His children, teens now juggling school and sports, emerged from their rooms to study by his side, determined to lighten his load. They carried groceries, organized pills into daily planners, and even tracked his water intake throughout the afternoon. Between sips of herbal tea, he shared bits of his medical plan, chemotherapy schedules, recommended nutrition plans, and follow-up scans. Their eyes widened with concern, but each nodded resolutely. The family kitchen became a war room, strewn with medical brochures, inspirational quotes, and a whiteboard outlining goals for every week. In the quiet early mornings, before dawn's first light, John retreated to his home office, where sunlight filtered over a desk piled high with journals. He wrote candid entries about fear, hope, and the surreal sensation of playing a leading role in the toughest drama of his life. Some days the pages filled with gratitude, moments he once took for granted, like laughing over cereal with his kids, or stepping onto a skateboard for an impromptu spin around the block. Other days, the words tumbled out in anxious bursts, reflecting the weight of treatments yet to come. Writing became his therapy, a way to channel turmoil into something he could control. Across town, production crews prepared for the release of Facing the Unscripted, the documentary that would chronicle John's journey alongside other notable figures, confronting life-altering diagnoses. The film intercut his own footage, scenes of early morning workouts in a hospital gym, counseling sessions with a therapist, and quiet evenings spent painting with his kids, with expert interviews on medical breakthroughs and patient advocacy. John reviewed rough cuts, offering candid feedback. Show more of the laughter, he urged, because that's where resilience lives. He wanted to ensure the final piece felt honest, imperfect, and ultimately uplifting. Meanwhile, online fan communities mobilized. Within hours of that initial Instagram post, the hashtag #StamosStrong trended worldwide. Fans organized virtual candlelight vigils, posting photos of flickering flames and handwritten notes of encouragement. Local support groups in cities from Seattle to Sydney hosted screenings of John's past shows, bundling fundraising drives for the charities he championed. A high school drama club performed a montage of his most iconic scenes, dedicating the proceeds from ticket sales to his foundation. What began as an outpouring of sympathy evolved into a powerful global movement, illustrating the reach of genuine human connection. The entertainment industry, too, took notice. Writers and producers who had long admired John's work saw an opportunity to weave his real-life struggle into upcoming plotlines. A medical drama approached him with an offer to guest star as a physician navigating his own diagnosis, an uncanny mirror to his current reality. John hesitated, wanting to avoid exploitation, but ultimately recognized the potential for catharsis and awareness. His episode, when it aired, culminated in a monologue about embracing vulnerability, a call to viewers everywhere not to hide their battles, but to share them and build solidarity. Beyond the screen, John stepped into a new role as an advocate. He spoke at a televised gala for a major cancer research institute, delivering a heartfelt address that balanced stark statistics with personal anecdotes. "I've learned more about strength in the past few months than in any action scene I've ever shot," he told the audience. His voice trembled only slightly as he described the moment he realized his life had no director calling cut. He urged listeners to support funding for early detection and patient support services, emphasizing that no one should face such news alone. This chapter of his life also ignited his creative ambitions. In late-night sessions at his writing desk, John drafted the outline for a memoir tentatively titled Unscripted Moments. He envisioned chapters exploring childhood dreams, the challenges of Hollywood, the joys of fatherhood, and the vulnerability of illness. Alongside that project, he teamed with a streaming platform to develop a docu-series probing unsung stories of resilience, from single mothers who launched businesses in midlife to veterans retraining for civilian careers. Each installment would spotlight a different journey, reinforcing his belief that heroism isn't confined to fiction. Yet through every event, every fundraiser, and every late-night writing session, John remained grounded by one unshakable truth: he was not defined by a diagnosis. His identity encompassed father, partner, friend, actor, and advocate all at once. He leaned into that complexity, using each hat as a source of strength rather than distraction. And as the world watched, he continued to embody the message he'd championed from the start. Life can surprise us in heart-wrenching ways, but it can also reveal reservoirs of courage we never knew existed. The days that followed blended into a tapestry of hospital hallways, late-night consultations, and moments so ordinary they felt miraculous. John's treatment schedule was grueling. Mornings reserved for testing and blood draws, afternoons for chemotherapy infusions, and evenings spent watching reruns of his own shows with his kids curled up beside him. Yet within this rhythm of tubes, scans, and waiting room magazines, he discovered unexpected gifts: the kindness of nurses who memorized his favorite snack preferences, the laughter that bubbled up when his teenage daughter teased him for mistaking almond milk for heavy cream, the solidarity of fellow patients comparing battle scars and breakthrough moments. Each small connection became a lifeline, tethering him to hope on days when fear threatened to overwhelm. His doctors guided him through medical jargon, percentages, margins of error, and protocols named like military operations. But John insisted on translating that language for his fans. In a video message posted between treatments, he held up a chart detailing his recovery milestones, and candidly explained what each term meant. "Think of it like a script," he told viewers. "You want to know your character's next move, right? Well, these numbers tell me where I stand and where I need to go. It's imperfect, but it's my roadmap." The clip went viral, not for Hollywood polish, but for raw authenticity. Fans applauded his decision to demystify medicine, turning fear into understanding, and they responded with fan art, homemade get-well cards, and a steady stream of supportive comments that lit up his notifications like a constellation. Colleagues rallied too. A former co-star dropped by between scenes, delivering a care package of homemade soup and childhood memorabilia. A well-worn guitar John once strummed in impromptu kitchen concerts, a scrapbook of press clippings from his earliest commercials, and a handwritten note recalling a prank they pulled on set. The gesture reminded John that his legacy extended beyond ratings and red carpets. It lived in relationships forged over decades of shared laughter and late-night shoots. That evening, as he sat on his porch with the scrapbook open on his lap, he marveled at how each photo told a story of risk, reward, and unexpected turns. The same themes playing out now in the most personal storyline of his life. Creatively, John found that his illness unlocked a deeper layer of empathy for the characters he'd portrayed. When he returned to the corner of the soundstage reserved for his cameo guest spots, he approached scripts with fresh eyes. A joke about spilled coffee suddenly felt poignant. A comedic misstep in a farcical scene resonated as a metaphor for life's unpredictability. Directors noticed subtle shifts in his performance: a tender gaze, a paused breath before delivering a punchline, a willingness to let silence carry emotional weight. These nuances didn't go unnoticed by fans, who praised the new depth in his acting. Social media comments read like fan letters. "Your authenticity shines through. We feel every beat of your heart. Thank you for reminding us that feeling is strength." At home, John and his partner carved out quiet rituals to weather the highs and lows. They created a good news jar on the kitchen counter, a simple glass container, where anyone could slip a note about a small victory, the green light on a lab report, a day without nausea, the taste of coffee that didn't revert to chlorine water. On days when the jar overflowed, they read the notes aloud, celebrating progress one scrap of paper at a time. On tougher mornings, they added entries describing moments of grace, the chirp of a backyard bird, the warmth of shared laughter, the relief that comes when a scan reveals no new growth. These rituals grounded John in gratitude, a theme he revisited in interviews and posts, emphasizing that acknowledging small wins can fortify the spirit even when the road ahead remains uncertain. In parallel, John deepened his commitment to patient advocacy. He joined a panel discussion at a leading medical conference, sharing the stage with oncologists, researchers, and survivors. His presence lent a high-profile face to the data-heavy symposium, and he used his speaking time to humanize clinical trials, how each participant, each trial represented someone's neighbor, parent, or friend. Journalists covering the event noted that his remarks transcended celebrity soundbites. He spoke with the urgency of someone who'd stared down mortality, and emerged determined to improve the odds for others. Clips from the conference spread online, driving record donations to cancer research funds and prompting calls for legislative support to streamline trial approvals. Meanwhile, his family became active collaborators in his public journey. His son, inspired by his father's openness, started a blog chronicling what it's like to be the child of someone undergoing treatment. He wrote honest posts about balancing homework with hospital visits, about peer reactions, and about finding pride amid uncertainty. His daughter produced short videos teaching mindfulness exercises to kids whose parents were facing health crises. Together, their platforms reached audiences that John, with his mass-market appeal, had never tapped: teenagers grappling with anxiety, young families seeking coping strategies, and caregivers seeking community. The Family Project underscored a new truth: vulnerability begets connection, and shared stories build support networks stronger than any prescription. Through it all, the narrative of Heartbreak transformed into one of collective resilience. John's life, once a series of roles scripted by Hollywood writers, was now the most compelling script of all, written in medicine cabinets, whispered in waiting rooms, and broadcast live through the hearts of millions. Each chapter, diagnosis, treatment, advocacy, creative renaissance, wove together to form a story that transcended any single performance. And as he navigated this unscripted journey, he reminded the world that the greatest protagonists aren't those who avoid adversity, but those who embrace it, learning to rewrite the ending as they go. Even as treatments continued, John found his public role evolving once again, this time in ways neither he nor his fans could have anticipated. Invitations poured in to speak at health summits, to join panels advocating for policy changes, to host fundraisers blending entertainment with education. He embraced these offers, seeing them as extensions of his on-screen talents, performance used to inspire, storytelling wielded as a tool for awareness. At a virtual summit on patient advocacy, John opened with a brief reflection: "In all my years on set, nothing taught me the importance of ensemble like this battle for my health." Laughter rippled through the digital auditorium. In that shared humor, vulnerability became the connective tissue uniting speaker and audience. Between sessions, he collaborated with writers to craft public service announcements that struck a rare balance between star power and sincerity. He refused to lean on glitzy production values, instead favoring candid footage shot on his phone, a clip of him cracking a joke before a drip, a moment of quiet determination as he laced up running shoes for gentle laps around the hospital courtyard. Those unpolished glimpses became the PSA's greatest strength, reinforcing the message that real courage lives in everyday choices: a balanced meal, a call to a friend, the decision to show up for treatment even when hope feels fragile. Meanwhile, John's creative instincts drew him back into the world of scripted storytelling, but with a new mission. He signed on as an executive producer for a limited series, exploring the journeys of individuals confronting unexpected life-altering moments. Tentatively titled "When Scripts End," the anthology would feature standalone episodes, each illuminating a different human crisis: loss, illness, reinvention. John helped assemble a writer's room comprising survivors, caregivers, and medical professionals, alongside seasoned TV scribes. Their goal was not to sensationalize trauma, but to dramatize resilience, to show how the human spirit is rewritten when familiar storylines collapse and new ones demand creation. Production of the first episode began in a small Midwestern town, where residents volunteered to serve as extras and consultants. John made cameo appearances behind the camera, coaching actors on conveying authenticity rather than spectacle. On one memorable afternoon, he organized an impromptu courage circle on set, a simple exercise where cast and crew shared personal challenges before filming began. His own testimony about the loneliness of isolation during infusions, about the flash of relief when lab results showed improvement, brought a hush over the crew. In that quiet testament, he affirmed that the most powerful scenes are those grounded in unapologetic truth. Back on his talk show, John introduced segments highlighting local champions, people who had turned personal heartbreak into community renewal, a former firefighter who now runs trauma-informed workshops, a teacher who created a scholarship fund after losing a child to illness. Each story became a mirror, reflecting John's evolving ethos that personal trials, when shared, become bridges rather than barriers. Viewers responded with a flood of nominations, eager to see neighbors, friends, and relatives celebrated for resilience. The show's social media team compiled these submissions into highlight reels, each clip a testament to the collective courage sparked by John's confession and the tone he set thereafter. In quieter moments, John also devoted himself to mentorship. He launched a fellowship program for young performers interested in using their platforms for social impact. Applicants submitted creative pitches, monologues, short films, public service campaign ideas, addressing issues from mental health to environmental justice. John personally reviewed hundreds of entries, offering feedback that blended tough love with genuine encouragement. He reminded participants that authenticity was their greatest asset. Your voice matters because it's uniquely yours. Don't hide behind cliches. Let your truth guide your art. As autumn turned to winter, John and his partner orchestrated a series of intimate community gatherings, Evenings of Hope, hosted in small theaters and community centers. Admission was free. Seats were filled through local charities. Each event combined live performances, poetry readings, acoustic music sets, short plays with panel discussions, featuring survivors and advocates. John served as MC, opening with a simple greeting. Good evening, friends and neighbors. Tonight we celebrate our common humanity. The applause that followed felt less like celebrity adulation and more like familial recognition. Support for John's cause extended internationally. Fans from Europe and Asia organized synchronized candle-lighting events, while a children's choir in South America recorded a lullaby medley dedicated to his recovery. John, moved by the global embrace, shared clips of these tributes on his channels, underscoring the transcendent power of solidarity. It became clear that what began in a hospital hallway had grown into a worldwide movement, a reminder that personal stories can outlive any single person and inspire collective action across cultures. By the end of Section 4, John's life had become a tapestry of public awareness, creative exploration, and authentic connection. He continued treatments with an unwavering spirit, buoyed by the knowledge that his vulnerability had seeded hope in places he'd never imagined. And as he prepared for the next chapter, whether that meant a return to the big screen, the release of his memoir, or a surprise cameo on a beloved sitcom, one truth remained constant. Heartbreak had marked the turning point, but resilience would define the narrative moving forward. John's life continued to pivot in unexpected ways as he approached the midpoint of his treatment journey. Though side effects occasionally sapped his energy, he discovered resilience in ritual and routine. Each morning began with a simple walk in the garden outside his home, a place he once overlooked but now cherished for its tranquility. The rustle of leaves, the gentle hum of bees, and the burst of early sunlight on dew-kissed petals became his daily dose of hope. His partner walked beside him, offering steady conversation or comfortable silence when words failed. On days when fatigue threatened to overwhelm, John found strength in this quiet communion, reminding himself that healing often grows in stillness rather than spectacle. As his treatment plan evolved, opportunities arose to translate his personal experience into creative expression. Collaborating with a small documentary crew, John embarked on a companion short series titled Between Treatments, capturing the raw, unscripted moments that define a patient's reality. Scenes included early morning vitals checks, candid conversations with nurses offering comfort, and honest reflections on the emotional roller coaster of waiting room readings. He insisted on minimal editing, ensuring every exhale, every tremor of the hand, and every forced smile remained intact. The resulting footage struck a chord, not as sensationalized drama but as unvarnished truth. Viewers saw a star who refused to hide his humanity, a decision that fostered deeper connection. Meanwhile, John's children stepped further into the spotlight, using their own platforms to share lessons learned from navigating a parent's health crisis. His daughter produced a heartfelt video teaching coping strategies for teenagers facing family adversity, while his son interviewed fellow peers about maintaining academic focus amid personal challenges. Their authentic voices drew admiration from audiences of all ages, proving that vulnerability knows no generational bounds. John watched with pride as their stories gained traction, proof that speaking truth to struggle can inspire collective resilience. He offered guidance, but ceded creative control, recognizing that his children's unscripted perspectives held their own power. On the advocacy front, John deepened alliances with nonprofit leaders to launch Healing Hubs community centers offering integrated support for patients and families. These hubs combined counseling services, art and music therapy workshops, nutritional guidance, and support group meetings under one roof. John toured the first pilot center in his hometown, helping unpack boxes of therapy kits and greeting patients with warm handshakes. Cameras followed his every step, yet he maintained a low-key presence, preferring genuine interaction over polished soundbites. Local press covered the initiative, emphasizing how a celebrity's personal journey had catalyzed practical solutions for communities often overlooked. The model quickly attracted funding and became a blueprint for similar centers in multiple states. Amid these public ventures, John carved out time for introspection and creative rejuvenation. He returned to his writing desk late at night, drafting scenes for a dramatic limited series that blended elements of his own story with fictional characters. His pitch treated illness not as a plot device but as a catalyst for transformation, exploring themes of grief, redemption, and the enduring power of community. Network executives praised the authenticity of his concept, and filming was slated to begin once he reached his next milestone in treatment. The project, tentatively named Unwritten Acts, would feature a cast of diverse talents, reflecting John's belief that shared vulnerability can bridge cultural divides. It represented his commitment to storytelling that heals as much as it entertains. Through every challenge and opportunity, John remained anchored by gratitude. He continued the ritual of the good news jar, now filled not only with personal victories, but also with letters from viewers whose own lives his journey had touched. Each letter contained stories of parents finding strength to support sick children, adults rekindling relationships fractured by fear, and entire neighborhoods organizing health awareness fairs. John and his partner drew inspiration from these messages, reading a selection aloud at the end of each week as a reminder that individual actions ripple outward. His commitment to reciprocity, offering both vulnerability and service, solidified his role not only as a beloved actor but also as a catalyst for positive change. As Section 5 drew to a close, John Stamos stood at a pivotal crossroads. The heartbreak that thrust him into the public eye now served as a foundation for lasting impact. With treatments progressing, creative projects taking shape, and communities galvanized by his advocacy, he prepared for the next chapter with cautious optimism. The hospital corridors, once a place of fear, had become a stage for his greatest role yet, that of a storyteller whose own life story inspires hope, action, and connection. His journey remained unfinished, but one truth endured: heartbreak had unveiled a path toward renewal, and with each step, John walked that path with unwavering courage. In the weeks following the launch of Healing Hubs and When Scripts End, John tested a new dimension of leadership. Invitations arrived to keynote global health conferences, advise on policy panels, and join creative retreats. He embraced each as a chance to harness personal narrative for change, recognizing that his story could inspire real connection beyond entertainment's usual boundaries. Back on set, John returned to one of his earliest passions, music. Between shooting scenes for Unwritten Acts, he picked up his guitar and composed a series of heartfelt songs reflecting the emotional journey of his treatment. Lyrics chronicled tremors of fear, moments of solace found in children's laughter, and the unwavering resolve that propelled him forward. When studio musicians laid down tracks for the album, he titled Notes from a Healing Heart, John narrated short spoken word passages bridging each song with reflections on gratitude and hope. His partner became an equal collaborator in this creative venture. She curated art installations for the album's digital liner notes, drawing on intimate photos from their hospital room sketches and garden walks. Together, they hosted live-streamed listening parties, inviting fans to share personal stories inspired by the tracks. Twitter threads lit up with lines of poetry, film-inspired short stories, and amateur paintings dedicated to John's journey. In these virtual gatherings, artist and audience co-created a tapestry of empathy that transformed passive fandom into participatory community. Meanwhile, his memoir Unscripted Moments moved forward with momentum. John spent select afternoons at a favorite beach, notebook in hand, drafting chapters that blended humor and heartbreak. He wrote about early auditions filled with rejection, the thrill of landing his first role, the private love he guarded before his public confession, and how each twist in his life prepared him for this moment of vulnerability. His writing celebrated the beautiful unpredictability of unscripted living, arguing that life's greatest scenes are improvised between the lines. Community impact also rippled into the philanthropic world. Major donors pledged support to expand healing hubs into rural areas where access often lagged. John personally matched contributions up to a fixed amount, rallying fans to invest in local centers in underserved regions. Groundbreaking ceremonies featured local officials, medical experts, and families whose lives had already been touched by pilot programs. Each ribbon cutting symbolized more than bricks and mortar. It represented a communal promise that no one should face adversity alone. At home, quiet rituals continued to sustain John's spirit. The good news jar overflowed with stories of hope, but he added a new tradition, a weekly gratitude walk with his partner and children, followed by an open forum dinner where guests shared wins and worries alike. These gatherings, broadcast in short form on social media, inspired viewers to start similar practices in their own families. Hashtags like #FamilyGratitudeCircle trended in parenting communities, as families across the country embraced moments of collective reflection. Professionally, John navigated a carefully calibrated balance between advocacy and artistry. He hosted an episode of a major award show, delivering a monologue that wove political commentary with a message of unity rooted in his own healing. Critics praised his authenticity, noting how he used the platform to elevate voices of survivors and frontline healthcare workers. When cameras cut to the audience, row after row of individuals wearing matching pins supporting early detection, a silent wave of solidarity washed over the televised event. As treatments entered their final phases, John faced a pivotal decision to return to a full film role or to slow down. After consulting with doctors, family, and collaborators, he opted for a limited slate of creative commitments, prioritizing projects that held personal meaning. He signed on for a feature film about a father reconnecting with his children after hardship, a narrative mirroring his own recovery. On set, he balanced filming schedules with medical appointments, guided carefully by production teams mindful of his health protocols. The support network he cultivated proved vital during this transition. Friends from across the industry sent encouraging notes, audience members sent homemade blankets to keep him warm during long shoots, local volunteers stepped in to help with errands on treatment days. John featured them in the album notes for Notes from a Healing Heart and gave cameo appearances in the pilot of Unwritten Acts. These gestures blurred lines between personal gratitude and professional acknowledgement, reinforcing that his journey belonged to a collective tapestry. Before stepping back into treatment, John appeared on a late-night show with his guitar. He performed an acoustic tune about finding strength in vulnerability, then reflected, "Courage is saying I'm not okay and still showing up." His words resonated with viewers, reminding us that heartbreak can become the gateway to empathy, purpose, and shared resilience.